All right, good afternoon. Happy April. Um, Welcoming you to Are You Supercharging Your Brain as part of the Are You Well series here at Rush University. My name is Judy Fredericks. I'm coming to you from the Wellness Center as your wellness liaison, and I'd like to introduce Mary Duckett. Mary, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Duckett. I'm the Senior Wellness Program Administrator at Rush Wellness. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm happy to be here today with Judy.
Thank you. All right, so just to get started, we want to talk a little bit about your brain and about what kinds of things can help your brain. So as we had before, you want to find different ways to calm your brain so that you can work on all cylinders. And this is one of them. This is a good suggestion. Beautiful piano music. So let's talk about being supercharged. So the idea is not to make your brain work harder. The idea is to really make it more efficient, given what you have ahead if you are facing presentations and exams and those kind of things, even just to work in your own job and your role a little bit more effective is really good. So we want to give you some tips about ways to do that and help you recognize some things that you might be doing to sabotage your ability to work well with your brain. And so, as we go, one of the things I'd like to ask you about is when you're preparing for anything, whether it's a presentation, finals, a project, anything that you need to do that takes a lot of energy, what is your biggest challenge as you come up, as you try to prepare for that? And this is a live survey, so what you can do is you can use the QR code and the passcode if you're on the phone. What you would do is go to slido.com, and it's SLIDO.com. The passcode is OZWXII. And we already have some good answers here. So time management, absolutely. That's the time lord, right? That's big. That's big. Procrastination. So perfectionism has a piece of it that's procrastination. So if you find yourself as a perfectionist, you find procrastination as one of your characteristics. Yes, anxiety. So we'll talk about the difference between stress and anxiety. And you might be interested in what that has to say. And the idea is sometimes you can get yourself pretty worked up over what's coming and you haven't even started it, right? And once you get it going and you find yourself just in the moment and you're really like working and you feel like you're taking a lot of information, you're getting organized, it just feels so much better. So sometimes the jumping in feels really good. So, yes, there is a fear of failure, absolutely. And I think that's kind of also invigorating in a little way that you have a challenge ahead of you, that you know that there is the fear of failing, but at the same time, there's also the fear of success. And so we do want to challenge and go after that success to be able to kind of even out that scale and not just focus on failure, what if only kinds of things, but think about what if I do well? You know, what do I need to get to that point? Like, where am I right now? And what do I need to get to the point where I imagine it to be very successful? So, thank you for putting all that in there. Acute problem solving, talk about that a little bit too. Your brain can go about 17 minutes really focusing hard on something, like hard. You can go a lot longer if you're studying kinds of things, but I'm talking about calculus kinds of things or data kinds of things. 17 minutes before your brain starts to kind of short out and be distracted. So you do want to be able to give yourself some brain breaks, some time away, just even looking away from the screen every 20 minutes, about 20 feet away for about 20 seconds, and that gives you different neural pathways to work with. So you want to be able to think about some of the things you can do for your brain in order to protect it and help it be functioning very high. All right, now the next question I have is if someone supported you. So you said, oh, wow, that was so supportive what they did. What was the actual action? Because I think a lot of times when you say, oh, we need more support, or oh, that was very supportive, what was it that they did? Try to think about the actual thing they did and see if you can acknowledge that. Wow. Yes, that feeling of kindness, taking something off your plate, right? Offering to help or to work with you or to do something for you. The idea of really listening, so you know about active listening, that somebody is looking at you, they're not on their phone, that they're nodding, they're rephrasing. It's very helpful. And they're not trying to fix. And sometimes that's what you need. You need to set some parameters that I don't need you to fix it. I just need to throw these ideas out at the world and be able to have somebody hear it so I can kind of hear what I'm saying and kind of move on to the next thing. Somebody motivated you. Yes. What did they do to motivate you? What got you going? What kind of said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and finish that, even though I didn't have energy before? Offering support, hugs. The act of touch is amazing. For those of you who crave salt, a lot of times that is not enough touch. If you crave sugar, that's not enough sleep. So kind of think about where your cravings go. And some of you, we have both things, right? We do something salty and then we want something sweet. So think about that. Validation, yes, yeah, that it is hard, right? And it's good. It's hard and it can be good at the same time. So definitely. So this is very good. Checking in is very important. I think just just feeling valued for what you do, the fact that you're working hard as a student and possibly you're working as well and juggling home, just checking in on that, like, what are you challenged with today or what are you juggling today kind of thing. So thank you everybody for doing that. That's really wonderful to get your feedback on all those things. All right, so a lot of us think that we have to multitask, and when we multitask, actually, multitask has some challenges. So here's a quiz question for you. If you're multitasking during studying, does the information go to the striatum or the hippocampus? So you can put it in the chat if you know it. I'll talk a little bit and see if anybody kind of comes back to this. But the idea is that when you multitask, it increases your stress hormone, both cortisol and adrenaline, and it overstimulates your brain. So sometimes you can feel either fogged or kind of scrambled, even though you think you're doing a really good job multitasking. It also creates a dopamine addiction feedback loop. So it rewards the brain for constantly searching for external stimulation. So you know what I mean. As soon as you hear the ding on your phone, right away you're looking to see what it is. And the more those things happen, the more your brain likes it and it wants to do more and more and more. So you're finding yourself so scattered that you can't even get one thing done. So you want to be able to turn off things, especially if you're studying. You want to be able to think about time boxing and be able to maybe set your timer for 50 minutes, 50. Phone goes away, social media, everything else is closed down. You've got what you're going to study. You study 50 minutes, timer goes off, and you recognize what you've accomplished. Wow, I got a lot of this done. I still got to do a couple things, but give yourself a brain break. Stand up, 5 minutes, go do something and come back, and you will have a new set of neurotransmitters that will be able to focus better and be able to feel refreshed. So that's a real important thing. Your prefrontal cortex, that's your logic and reasoning, actually has this novelty bias. And so it also likes to be hijacked by something new and shiny. So, the phone, the emails, it gives you actually a burst of endogenous opioids. So it's just kind of amazing what your brain does on trying to multitask. So the answer to this is when you're learning and multitasking at the same time, the information does go to the wrong part of the brain. So like studying with the TV on, the information goes to the striatum, and that's really where new procedures should go, not things that you want to retrieve. And so what happens is when you try to retrieve what you just studied the next day, it's not there for you to retrieve because it's in a different place. And so to be able to focus is so important. All right, so there is this whole thing about your brain loves ordered tasks. So maybe some of you are list makers. You have to be careful. You don't want to have post-it notes all over the place. You want to actually have a list, and that list can be crossing off and add to the next and crossing off, and maybe use a spiral notebook so that your list can continue. And that feels good because you can actually see your successes and write down the things that you do so you feel like you complete those things. What's nice is if you work on that list right before or after dinner so that you have what you're going to be doing the next day. And that way you don't do a lot of hamster wheel kind of things during the night, kind of worrying about things, how you're going to fix it, that you've already done that worrying around 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And do it every day so that your brain knows that's going to be the time that you're going to worry or think about. It's also important that you have routines that begin and end. So when you come to work or you come to school, you have something that you usually do. You might go for coffee, you might meet a friend, you might just sit down for a few minutes and just read something. But whatever it is, a nice routine is helpful for your brain to get ready for what's going to happen. And then when you leave, the same thing, take off the ID, go to the car, sit down, take a couple deep breaths, same kind of thing to alert your brain that that time is done. So the whole thing about lists is really important, and it does help you stay on task. It does help you to focus. So you do want to be able to start tasks, maybe even 10 minutes of a task kind of thing. If you're somebody that's really distracted, try to see if you can stay on task for 10 minutes. And if you set a timer, that way you don't have to keep looking at your watch to see if you've made it or not, that the timer will alert you when it's done. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about memory issues. So here's a quiz question. What's the worst invention? Think about all the inventions, and especially in this last century. What's the worst invention? Anybody have a thought? Check the chat here. The smartphone, yes, you're very close. So even way before that, but there is a point in time when the phone became injurious to your brain. There was a time when the phone was doing well, allowing us to do a lot of things, but then there was a point where too much, too overwhelming. And so that became a problem. All right, so somebody else has a guess here? Let's see. I can't get into the chat. There it is. Google. Yeah, games on the phone. Oh my gosh, those are so addictive, right? You go down all these rabbit holes and you can't stop. Again, setting a timer that no matter when that timer goes off, no matter what you're in the middle of, you turn it down, you turn it off and go back to what you were doing. And you really have to be disciplined. People who do yoga, meditation, those kind of things are very their brain is very disciplined. And so to be able to get yourself to be that disciplined, you've got to be able to do some of those mind type of things where you're doing just focusing on your breathing. And if you find a disturbance or a noise, you notice it and you come right back to the breathing. You've got your eyes closed, you're being able, or you're kind of looking at something that's very calming. To be able to train your brain not to be so easily distracted. But actually, it's the light bulb. So before the light bulb, think about it. Think about when you woke up, when the sun came up, right? When did you go to sleep? When the sun went down. You did a couple things. Maybe you had a candle. When the candle ran down, it was time to go to sleep, and that was it. No other choices. So the idea that we had the light bulb really did extend our day and our night. And so then we kept working and studying into the night and maybe not getting up early, but mainly into the night. And so that became a problem. So an all-nighter can actually age your brain by 2 years. So think about that. So you want to be able to really think about sleep. Your brain needs time to organize. It needs time to make connections. It needs time to recover. Your body needs to recover. Your muscles, your tendons, your heart, your eyes, your ears all need to be able to recover. And so if you shortchange yourself, not only are you filing your information in the wrong place, you've got different things about your body that starts to kind of react or kick back because you're not getting enough sleep. The best time in your circadian rhythm to go to sleep is between 10 and 11 at night. For some of you, that's not enough sleep. How you know you're getting enough is when you wake up, you're not exhausted. That's how you tell how much time, how much sleep you actually need. Um, Memory and learning is impacted. So when you're sleeping again, that your body does recover, and you need that stage 2 sleep because that's your key memory storage stage. So that's a really important thing that you think about.
Judy, sorry. Can everyone try to make sure they're on mute, please? It seems like maybe someone's on the phone or something, but there's just a lot of background noise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have it muted, or I can go
I
in?
think so. It just, yeah, I was muting folks, but it seemed like
Good.
that happens on Zoom things, but just to
Yeah.
try to so we can hear Judy. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. All right. But yeah, I like the fact that you all kind of recognize that social media, Google, internet, Facebook, all those things do interfere with your ability for your brain to recover. And so even though you know it, do you set your timer? Do you set yourself a limit? And so maybe make that one of your wellness goals for the week or the month, that you're going to watch your reports, whether you have it on your Apple Watch or wherever you have a report about how much online time you had, and see if you can decrease it just by a little bit. Even if you could go an hour each day without any screens, that would be amazing. So kind of think about that a little bit. All right, so sleep hygiene tips. Again, that whole idea, sweet spot is 7 hours, best time between 10 and 11. That really does help your brain retain and be able to retrieve learned information. And having a sleep routine is really important. Blue screens, anything that is electronic, like your phone, your television, your computer, your iPad, all of those decrease your body's ability to create melatonin. Blue screens, all right? So to be able to shut that down about 20 minutes before you actually think you want to go to sleep is a really good idea. Let your body build up its own melatonin so that you don't have to go for the gummies. Consider getting a new pillow. Consider changing your air filter. All of those things will help sleep. And so that's good if you can make kind of a good environment for sleep. And you do want some consistency in both your wake time and your going to sleep time so that you're able to have that circadian rhythm. Right.
Judy,
Right.
there was a question.
Yeah.
Did you see? I like to listen to an audiobook before I go to sleep and set a timer for 15 to 20 minutes. Do you think this is a stimulant?
If it's an audio book, it's not. But if you're visually looking at it, then it is. So you can do audio is good. Anita, was that your question? Okay.
That was Lori's question.
Okay.
Yeah, I do that. It's kind of like a lullaby in a way, but I don't want to listen to anything that's going to be like a big mystery or something that's going to get my brain going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do something like alpha waves, I have an example of that later in the talk. We'll actually listen to some alpha waves, those kind of things, or Insight Timer. That is a benefit to Rush students and employees. You get to all the sections of Insight Timer. That's an app that you can use that you can actually set that for the nighttime stuff, and you don't need to use the screen, just listen to it. Very calming for your brain. Yeah. Another thing is that the color blue is a thinking color, so that's why I have blue on, so we're supercharging our brain. But if you want to sleep, green gray is the color that calms your brain. Or if you're anxious, green gray. So that's why being outside for many people feel very calm by being outside, because that green gray. So kind of ponder that. All right, so getting back to the phones that you guys all noticed, it does it all, right? It's amazing. And we do it all with our phones, even while we're walking or driving or whatever. It's frightening how people use their phones when things could put them at risk. And so even if you're not out there walking like in that picture, you're doing it while you're eating, while you're talking to somebody else, while you're studying. And so that is definitely distracting you from what you're trying to learn and retrieve at a different time when it's critical. Before smartphones, before cell phones, we had desk and wall phones. Before that, we didn't even have We didn't even have recordings, so you couldn't leave a message. So it just rang, and if you answered it, you did, and if you didn't answer it, they'll call back. And that was a very simple time, and we don't have that anymore. So we have to think about our own boundaries and be able to have some ability to say no to your phone, say no to some of those rabbit holes. The other thing that it is set up is how intolerant we are when somebody doesn't respond. When you've texted somebody, how long do you wait until you text them again or you call them? Oh, that's amazing that the phone would ring right at this very moment. Um, excuse that for a moment. Again, blue screens do decrease the focus on melatonin, and so you want to be able to decrease any of your blue screens. There we go. And some of the tips to think about is if you do need to use screens in the evening, try to use the blue screens in the evening, try to use a screen, a filter. The other thing is let your day begin without your phone. How many of you grab your phone before your feet touch the floor? Try not to do that. See what that would be like if you just let it go for 5 minutes and do other things about getting up, stretching, pondering what you're doing for the day, kind of thing. And then again, ending your day, turning those blue screens off a little bit before you're ready to go to sleep. Another big thing, if you did anything for your wellness, drink more water. That's like bottom line, drink more water. Dehydration actually slows down your shift from your amygdala, that's your reaction center, that fight, flight, freeze, to your prefrontal cortex, that's your logic and your reasoning. And you want to be able to have that shift because you want to be able to take in information, that's your learning, that's the recall, that's the screening of emotional feelings. So you want to be able to shift to that. And so just by drinking water, it's amazing. It also does help short-term memory. So again, drinking water can help with your studying. All right, what about getting up and moving? That's important. So if you take intentional steps, I don't mean just like walking to the cafeteria. I mean, you're moving to the cafeteria. You're like really motoring to the cafeteria. Those are intentional steps. That can actually improve how you feel. If you can get 20 minutes in a day, that's amazing. You want to try to move every 90 minutes. So if you're studying, get up and move. Even if you walk down the hallway, maybe go down one flight of stairs and come back up and then come back to where you're sitting. That's a really good thing to kind of, again, reset those neural pathways. Also get that blood flow going, because you think about when you walk, you send more blood up to your brain. So that's just a nice way to kind of refresh and feel more alert. It also does improve your memory and learning, so that's so good. All right, and speaking about your memory, we're going to have Mary pick it up here on substance use.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So my name's Mary Duckett. Like I said, I've worked at Rush Wellness now for a year. But before that, I worked for 8 years at Loyola University Chicago with undergrad students, primarily doing alcohol and other drug education and prevention. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about substance use in the brain. So when we think about substances like especially alcohol and cannabis, those are super normalized in our society. We're all adults, we can legally use them. Cannabis especially has become a lot more normalized with it becoming legal in Illinois. I feel like I keep seeing so many dispensaries popping up, and just a lot more ingrained in our culture. So when you think about substances, I just think it's important to think about, despite them, being normalized, we know they are drugs and they can have really they can impact our brain in the short and long term. And also just if you're using alcohol or cannabis excessively or often, it can impact memory, learning, academics, but also things like, of course, your physical health, your liver. It can have effects on relationships. And when we talk about more kind of brain pathways, I think when I talk about substance use, I think it's important to think about, like, say you're using, we use alcohol socially when we're out with friends, or we might use cannabis to, unwind after a long week at work. but think kind of about like how you're using it if you are choosing to use substances, and be really intentional about it. I think it can get serious or lead to dependence, or just kind of start to lead that, even if it's not dependence, but it just can get concerning if someone's using a substance to help them deal with something they're feeling. So say like, you know, you're just getting really worried or stressed, and you're like, okay, I'll smoke cannabis to calm down. Or I, you know, just kind of every time after I have a long day, I have a glass of wine. I definitely have a glass of wine every once in a while at the end of a long day. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's always your go-to, it starts to kind of become, your brain is like, okay, I'm stressed out. I need a glass of wine. And you know that alcohol has ethanol, and it's just something that can become, we can start to kind of have that thing where that shouldn't be. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, don't make that your coping mechanism. Find a non-substance use coping mechanism to deal with stress. And so we can go to the next page, Judy. Thank you. Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Thanks. Sorry, I forgot you were in charge of the slides. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about alcohol for a second. So, alcohol is a depressant. So when you drink a couple glasses of alcohol, it slows down your breathing, slows down your heart rate. You start to get tired and more relaxed. So I'm sure we'll all notice, if we were like out at a restaurant or out with friends, and then you come home after having a couple drinks, you just start to feel kind of drowsy and tired. Um, so sometimes folks may use alcohol to help them go to sleep. I know a lot of us have issues with just our brain will not shut off at night, and we're just thinking about what we have to do the next day, and just kind of, just going over and over. And so that can seem tempting, like, oh, I'll have a drink and go to sleep. But the issue with using alcohol to go to sleep is it helps you initially fall asleep, but your sleep is a lot less restful. So alcohol actually interferes with your quality of sleep in terms of, you're going to wake up. You might have noticed, if you've ever had alcohol before bed, if you were out and came home, you wake up a lot more often during the night, and it interferes with your ability to get rapid eye movement or dream sleep, which is that really important sleep we all need for our brain to recharge and store things. So the National Sleep Foundation, I found a statistic that low amounts of alcohol decrease sleep quality by 9.3%. So just wanted to let you all know that, because there's so many things you can do to help, with sleep hygiene, and Judy mentioned some of them, and just making sure you're trying those things and trying to avoid substances. So my tip is, I know there's a lot of employees on this call, so not just with studying, but wind down after a long day of work with a cup of your favorite flavor of decaffeinated hot tea and a podcast or meditation. I know Judy talked about how it's too stimulating to have screens on, but having something to listen to is totally all right and can be really helpful. I put that Insight Timer app link in the chat. So everyone can get a free membership to it if you're a Rush, if you're part of Rush. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, so cannabis. Cannabis is, like I said, a substance become a lot more normalized. It's something that people do, have valid medical cards for, and it's something that can help with chronic pain and stress. But the issue with cannabis is when folks use it really often or use a lot at one time. THC, which is the psychoactive element in cannabis, the concentration has become a lot higher over the years. I think in the 90s it was like 2%, and now things can be around like 30%. So it's just a lot, you can use a lot less of it, and it has a lot stronger effect. Using cannabis can affect your brain. It can affect short and long-term memory. It can affect motivation. And it just it can also cause impairment with driving and other things. I think we all think about drunk driving, but now with cannabis becoming a more available, I think there's been a lot more issues with people using it and thinking they're okay to drive. And so with cannabis, I would say, like I said before, I encourage you to find another way to relieve stress, another main way. So things like getting outside, watching a show, listening to music, practicing mindfulness. Maybe I know Judy always talks about like writing out a worry list, and that's a good way to sometimes re- relieve stress because you're writing it down, putting it away. Um, and the last thing with cannabis, I know some of you all may have kids, and I'm not trying to do scare tactics here, but I just working at a university before, there's just been a lot more issues. I know everyone's heard about the fentanyl crisis and a lot of drugs like Adderall, cannabis, different things could potentially be laced with small amounts of fentanyl coming in from other countries right now. And that's where a lot of the overdoses are, like people taking something they didn't even realize. So just being really careful about, talking to your kids about that, about not getting anything illegally or using anything at all. You can move to the next slide. Thank you.
Thanks. And Mary, you had a note about a book called the Modern World is Bad for Your Brain by Daniel Levitin. And there's a
Oh,
piece in there about infomania. I think that's really a great book to be able to
um,
read on the side when you're between semesters.
Yeah. Cannabis, yeah, also has a really interesting history. I know we've talked a lot about that now, in 2024, I feel like. Um, and then Adderall, so Adderall is, I feel like Adderall sometimes gets a bad reputation in terms of we talk about people abusing it, and that is what we're going to talk about. But Adderall is, a valid drug that people use when they're diagnosed with, oh, Judy, could you post the book title there while I'm talking, if that's okay?
Sure. Yep.
Awesome. So Adderall is a valid drug that people use for ADHD. Folks who do have ADHD, you probably know it. You had to go through a lot of testing to be diagnosed and get prescribed Adderall. And so Adderall helps with focus and learning and helping people focus on one task. Um, but the way that Adderall can be more cause more issues is if someone is using it without a prescription, or they're using it more than prescribed. So Adderall can keep you awake, but it doesn't help you necessarily retain more information. So what a lot of students have been doing is, obtaining Adderall from a friend when they have, a big exam, they need to pull an all-nighter, or there's been a lot more cases of people buying Adderall on social media. You can buy it on Snapchat, different things, and taking it to stay awake, but you're not actually retaining information. And research has shown it doesn't actually help with academic performance if someone's taking it not for ADHD. And so just wanted to, about that. And so instead, if you have a big thing coming up, instead of relying on something like Adderall or pulling an all-nighter, creating realistic schedules, including studying, short breaks, and sleep, and then prioritizing content to study based on what exams are coming up and what may take longer to learn and retain. Um, and then, so someone asked about hemp-related products like CBD, and so CBD products, they don't contain THC, so they don't have that like psychoactive element, so they're a lot safer to use. It just depends on if people feel like they're effective or not. I feel like there's so many CBD products now. It's just kind of all about how they're regulated too. But I know people that use like the CBD gummies. They also have like CBD products to calm down dogs and things like that. And those things are, I would say, a lot safer in a way because they don't have that element there. But it's one of those things where I think it just depends. I think there's maybe a limit to how like effective they are, in my own opinion. But I think they generally, I don't know if you have any opinion on that, Judy, but I think they generally do help people they calm people a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for those of you who mentioned earlier when we were doing the survey, if you mentioned things about anxiety and stress, to come to the Wellness Center and talk to one of the psychotherapists, there's actually CBT2 is probably one of the best therapies for people who are having sleep issues. If you're just having anxiety or you can't prioritize or can't organize, that's absolutely a great reason to come and talk to one of the psychotherapists. And Mary will go through some of those resources in a few moments.
Yeah, so then the last slide is just about if you are ever concerned about your own substance use or a friend, kind of what you can do. So I think sometimes when people, like I said, I worked with college students. I think when people are 21 and over, we don't often think about substance use as much because, like, oh, it's legal. But I think, if you ever feel like it's interfering with your ability to do things or you feel like you are feeling more dependent, we have the wellness pager I'll talk about in a second. That's a way to get support from someone at the wellness center. Rush has a clinic for opioid use, and then the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration has a great hotline that you can call anytime. And then also the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, that's just general mental health. Now you can just call 988, like 911. I think changing it and making it easier like that has been really great.
So we talked a little bit about how your brain goes from reacting to reasoning and logic. And so just to have a visual about that is where your amygdala is where your fight, flight, freeze center is. That's that reptilian center that has you react to things. So if you heard a noise you weren't expecting, if somebody showed up and surprised you, you would right away have a reaction. Since COVID, and we've had so much high cortisol levels in our body, our hippocampus has actually changed, and we have a harder time getting out of that fight, flight, freeze, out of that reactionary center. And that's why you see so many people being intolerant, aggressive, angry, those types of things, because they can't get out of that space. If you can actually take 3 deep breaths and give yourself 6 seconds, 6 seconds, you can shift to that prefrontal cortex where it moves aside your emotions and you've got that logic and that reasoning, and that's where you want to be. So whenever you have that moment, that like kind of moment, to give yourself a chance to take that deep breath, to make that shift and get into that logic and reasoning. And I think that's a very healthy place to be. And the more you do it, the quicker you get there. One of the ways you can do it is just hand over your heart, 3 deep breaths, kind of brings down that cortisol, to be able to kind of move forward with being able to have that logic and that reasoning. So then you have to think about it, just about what's your mind doing. So, when you were driving to work or to school this morning, or when you were in the shower, or when you were in a meeting, were you already thinking ahead about what was going to happen? Or were you already kind of pondering about what happened before and you kind of wished it was different, but you're not in the moment? And that's why I said for those who practice yoga or just brain breaks or breathing or meditation, they're able to train their brain at that moment to be very focused. And that's what you want to do. So if you're able to walk and just listen to music, if you're able to fall asleep and be able to sleep until you wake up and you feel rested, those kind of things are being able to show that you're able to be mindful, not mindful. And there's a big difference about that. So taking a brain break is important. And I mentioned that earlier, that 20-20-20 rule, just every 20 minutes, like right now, you can just take your eyes off the screen. If you've got a window, look outside, find some green, gray. Things are beautifully opening up right now and blooming. So take a little bit of a look at that, take a couple deep breaths for about 20 seconds and then come back. And you really can focus. You really can stay connected much better than if you just tried to continue and kind of like plow right through it. Your visual field gets smaller, you get more distracted, you have more reactions when you hear a beep on your phone and you've got to go listen to it because, again, your brain wants to do that. And so to be able to teach yourself to have these calming things, some of the things you can do is anything to do with the arts. And I'm hoping that some of you will post in the chat some of the things that you currently do that helps you be more mindful. So when you paint, it's really interesting that it stimulates the part of the brain affected by depression. So that's a really good thing, that you want to be able to give physical shape and build problem-solving skills and improve memory through painting. And so right now, one of the Nursing Wellness Awards has to do with art for wellness, and you see signs around the institution, and go and join in because it's amazing what some artwork could do. Any kind of instrumental music like what I played earlier really can improve your performance. And then what you want to do is have it softly in the background, Not anything with vocals, just instrumental, very calming. If you can do anything with the classics, that's incredible also. Even like hooked on classics, that's an amazing thing to be able to kind of give you a beat that's kind of a good, like a little quicker beat, but it's still in the back and it's still a classic, very nice. Dancing is wonderful. And for those of you who say, I don't dance, if you put on music and you've got kids around and they're jumping around, and if you did it with them, they would be laughing, you would be laughing, releasing endorphins, feeling good, feeling silly, and improving your brain function. So if you need to take a break from studying, go turn on some music and dance it out. Try it out. It might work. All right, so we talked a little bit about alpha waves, and so I want to be able to share this. Thank you, Mary, for putting in there about noticing 3 new things around you, and you can absolutely do that. Even in the room that you're always in, you could sit for a moment and just kind of look around and find things that maybe you didn't notice. I mean, it could be a dust web, or it could be like, oh, that's where I put that thing up on a shelf somewhere, or you still have something out from St. Patrick's Day that you hadn't noticed before. And it's just kind of nice to be able to get your brain to be looking for things, be more aware. So thanks, Mary, for putting that in there. All right, so here's an example of alpha waves. So what I'd like you to do is sit back in your chair, put your feet on the floor, roll your shoulders back, take 3 deep breaths, nice deep breaths, and close your eyes and just for 1 minute, listen to alpha waves. Let me know if you can't hear it. Halfway through, take a deep breath through your nose and through your mouth. Five seconds left. Take another deep breath and kind of stretch a little bit and stretch your back, stretch from side to side. Put your hands behind your back, open up your chest, take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and shake it out. All right, so hopefully you like that and it felt good. Now, if we were going to be able to be in person, what we could do this yoga. So if any of you are willing to do this, you want to stand up for just a minute, we can do this really quickly. And what you want to do is have that mountain pose, which is your feet apart, your hands are forward, and it's a very solid feeling. And when you have this mountain pose in yoga, what you want to do is think about how you're feeling right now. And in the next hour, what could you bring to that hour to make you stronger than you were before the hour happened? Then you want to move to warrior pose. So if you bring your hands over your head and then bring 1 foot forward, 1 arm forward, your palms are up, and say out loud, the calmest in the room is the strongest in the room. Take a deep breath, and I'd like you to go to the other side. Now with certainty say, I am the calmest in this room, and I am the strongest in this room. Bring your hands over your head, bring your hands to your heart. Believe that there's a flow of love, kindness, compassion, and respect for yourself. And then bow, namaste, which means I bow to the divine in you. But this is just a nice little break to be able to give yourself. Right? All right, so To be successful in any of these things that we talked about, you need muscle memory, right? Hand over your heart, 3 deep breaths. Each time you do that, your brain gets to calming faster and faster. It goes back to that neural pathway that you set down the first time you did it. Intentionally have a workspace. Recognize what happens in your body when you start to feel stress. Does your heart start racing? Do you start to feel tension? Do you clench your fists? What do you do? Watch the signs of your body and be able to respond to them by taking that breath, taking that walk, going to talk to a counselor, any of those things. Think about the levels of stress. Rest your brain. Consider how important sleep is, hydration, moving every 90 minutes. And if you could get to the goal of 6,000 steps over a couple months period would be amazing. And then think about when coaching would be useful, because you do want to give yourself grace in all of this, that you do not need to be perfect. There's a striving for excellence, and that's healthy. The perfection part is when it starts to become unhealthy. And so you do want to think about where you are in that whole continuum. Right. So before we start into the resources, a couple minutes into the resources, are there any questions that we could answer about any of the things that we talked about? Now quickly look at the thing. Insight Timer has an alpha wave. Yes, soulful sound waves. Very nice. And it's great, right? Insight Timer has a lot of benefits. So I hope you do take advantage of that membership because you're part of Rush. It's a benefit for Rush. And so take advantage of that and get some of those really useful parts. There's some really good sleep things as well. So thank you for putting that in there. Anybody else want to unmute for a moment and just talk about any of the things that you have come across? I've got a lot of you guys on. I'm sure some of you do some great things. Do you want to share some of the things that you do for your own wellness? I loved on Monday when we were in person, we had a couple people say that they were able to either take a shower or pray or have a bedtime routine to kind of get themselves ready and kind of calming themselves. So I think that's all very healthy. Yoga. Oh, yes. Yoga with Adriene. Very good. Thank you, Kelsey. All right, so let's get to the resources so that we still have time to finish this. So, Mary.
Molly Rose said biking to and from work. It's really great. The Calm app. Yeah, so many different things. So I'll just quickly, I know some of you, you all have gone to these presentations before, so you've heard about our resources, but it's good to have a refresher as well. So Judy and I both worked at Rush Wellness. The Center for Clinical Wellness, our physical location is in the Triangle Office Building, across the highway from the main hospital. We're in Suite 150. And it's a really nice space. It was designed to kind of evoke relaxation. It kind of looks like a spa, honestly. If you ever have an appointment there in person, there's like glass and plant wall, and it's just like a nice aesthetic space. So what we do at Rush Wellness is we offer, we're really focused on different dimensions of wellness, but the main service that we offer is counseling. So we have therapists on staff that offer free counseling for employees and students at Rush. Judy, do you mind advancing the slide? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we are available by appointment. So the Center for Clinical Wellness is open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have in-person therapy visits available, but you also could do telehealth, especially, if you're at if you're at Oak Park or Rish Copley. And you can go to therapy for so many different reasons. I think sometimes people think they have to wait till they're in crisis, but we want you to reach out way before then. You can talk about interpersonal relationships, stress, like so many different things that are going on. And there's no fee for students and employees. We don't build insurance at all. And there's no caps on sessions as well. it is something with any healthcare service. Sometimes there's a bit of a wait, but we're currently hiring new therapists. And so we'll have new therapists on our team, and we're expanding, therapy roles to other hospitals as well. So look out for information on that. And you can schedule on Inside Rush. Or for if you're at Rush Copley, they also have a scheduling link to schedule telehealth. And then, so our services, counseling, we also have some coaching programs. Right now, we have a nursing coaching program going on, and we have a resident physician program. So look out for those. We announce those in our wellness newsletter. We have some every year. We also have an energy pod. Some of you all may have used it. It's this cool, like, space-looking thing, and it's basically you can use it for 20-minute sessions. It plays music, and you can meditate. It used to be in our office, but it's in the process of getting moved to the Rush Fitness Center, which is right by the main hospital. And because the fitness center is now part of Rush Wellness. And so we're basically like working together a little more now. And you can use it for free even if you're not a member. It's not physically there yet, but once it is, we'll release information on how to book it. Okay. You can advance to the next slide. Thank you. Just a couple more things. So Rush, the therapy services are only available to Rush employees and students, but Rush also has an employee assistance program they contract with through ComPsych, and you can use that for your family members. So that I think has 5 free sessions, and it's something you can also use it for like legal needs and other things like that, like childcare. Thanks. Sorry, Judy. I keep making you advance it. Thanks. So I know working at a hospital, there's a lot of sometimes concern about seeking out mental health care where you work, and we recognize that. So a lot of the things we've done is to make sure we protect confidentiality and privacy. So our actual physical design of the center is protects privacy. So when you walk in for an appointment, it's a one way in, one way out. So you would buzz in, and we let people in one at a time. We have 2 chairs that are divided, so you can't see the other person. And then you would be let into the room that you have your session in through one door, and then leave through the other door, and then leave the center. So that's one way. And we also have soundproof walls and floors, and we use a different electronic medical record than Rush does. And so there's no, way that anyone could see anything. And we have a private client portal. We use Simple Practice and online scheduling. And then we have something called the Wellness Pager. I know a lot of the use of this has definitely been people are learning about it and using it, which is great. That's what we want. So the Wellness Pager is something that it's a phone line that is staffed by Rush therapists, and it's available 24/7. And it really can be used in a lot of different situations. Like, say you see something upsetting on your unit, and you just need to process, and you can't wait like a few days to get an appointment. You can, or say you're with a coworker and they seem like they're having a really hard time, and they're okay with you reaching out for them. You can call the Wellness Pager, and then a therapist will call you back in an hour. Or within the hour, and then help you process, maybe get you in for an appointment, just figure out next steps. And so once you call, then you could leave a message, and then you'll get a call back. And so, yeah, this is just a really good resource. And then mental health first aid, I'm sure some folks on the call have taken this. Rush pays for employees and students to take mental health first aid if you want to take it. It usually is a bit of a cost. So it's an 8-hour class. We hold it once a month on Saturday or Sunday. It's on Zoom from 9 to 3. And then you can become certified in mental health first aid. So that means that this is really helpful. Say you're just out and about and you see a situation where someone may need help, or you're handling something with a friend, or you're concerned about someone's like substance use or behavior. In the last 3 years, we've had around 300 Rush employees and students become certified. So it's really great to know. So I encourage you to look up for it. So you can sign up for it on our Inside Rush page. So if you just go to wellness, like go into Inside Rush and go to wellness, there's a big button that says mental health first aid, and then it will just lead you to a survey link. We offer it once a month. The class this month is already full, but we have one on May 18th and then June 23rd. So I encourage you to sign up for that, or just shoot me an email if you're having trouble finding it, and I'll send it to you directly. Um, Okay, I know we're almost at time. Let's see what other resources. Insight Timer, we talked about that. I encourage you to scan that and sign up. I also sent the link out. Lots of different great meditations. I'll just leave that up for a second so you can scan. Okay, Anchored. So Anchored, we started group therapy at the Wellness Center this year, a couple months ago, and we've been holding a staff group and a student group every month. So I know a lot of you all are staff. This group's been really great to help people process emotions about the state of the world. We know there's a lot of upsetting things going on, and also just things around work. So this is in person right now, just at Rumsey, but we might expand it over time. And then peer support. There are a lot of folks at Rush signed up as peer supporters. They're certified in mental health first aid, and they now work with our office and as volunteers, and they offer 30-minute virtual sessions where you could hop on and talk, schedule an appointment a couple days in advance and talk to someone at Rush about what's going on with you, maybe work stress, different things. It's completely confidential. They're not licensed therapists, but they are people with shared lived experience that are trained in mental health first aid. And it can be a good first step if you're trying to find resources or just need to, vent to someone. And then, activating April. This is a challenge we have going on right now. I just put it in the chat. This is something that I'm running and Judy is involved in as well. So we're encouraging people to focus on different aspects of wellness. And so you would go to the website and there's research sheets for each behavior. And then you can set a small goal for yourself. It could be anything, like just trying to walk more or drink 7 glasses of water a day. And then you can fill out a survey at the end of the week and you're entered to win a prize. So someone just won a neck massager for the first week, just notified them. And then the prize this week is a Rush branded Stanley tumbler, those Stanley cups, and the screen time one is blue light glasses, and then for rest, we're giving away a Tempur-Pedic pillow. So it's just a fun way to really just get into April. And then I think, is that the last one?
Yeah.
Great. So thank you all so much. Do
Yeah.
you have anything to?
If you do have any questions, we can go ahead and stop the recording and you'll be able to talk a little bit. Any of these QR codes will take you right to the wellness website. This one will give you an evaluation if you have any thoughts. We're really looking for ideas for next year because what we're going to do is one more presentation this year about energy. And then take a 2-month break, and then we'll be back in the fall. But if you have any ideas, please give us some input, and we would love to create a talk to do whatever it is that you're thinking you'd like to hear, because we love being able to do this kind of stuff. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And then if you've got any questions, please go ahead and unmute and let me know, or let Mary know. Okay, I need to go back here to stop the recording.
Hi there, it's Molly Rose. I'm glad I finally made it to one of these sessions.